Hello, and welcome to another edition of Cultural Conversations with the Big South. I'm your host, Darius Thigpen, and we're thrilled to continue this series into 2023 and happy for you to all join us. Our next guest has taken the Big South by storm in his freshman season. He's the second leading scorer for one of the hottest teams in the Big South in his freshman season. He's doing it at Radford, freshman guard Kenyon Giles. Kenyon, how are you doing this evening, man?
I'm doing good. We just had a hard practice, ESPN game Thursday, so I'm just excited.
Yeah, it's a big game coming up. You've had a number of big performances in your freshman season. Just for a refresher for anyone who may be new, this series is where we discuss social issues and highlight leaders from the Big South away from the court. So Kenyon, we're going to start a little bit talking about your background to get everyone to know you a little bit. Now, you lived in Virginia for most of high school, but you actually spent a year away from home in Las Vegas to wrap up your high school career. So how exactly did you end up in Vegas? Why'd you go to Nevada to end high school?
Yeah, I made a name for myself in Virginia. I'm a smaller guard, so I like playing with an edge. And I proved myself. So, I wanted to go to somewhere new where I could build a whole nother edge and just keep that edge on my back. And then so going to Nevada, playing different people and just wanting to make a name for myself, especially coming to college, because you gotta do it all over again because none of them high school accomplishments matter. So I just made sure to keep my edge for my senior year so I can keep the edge again going into my freshman year.
Now, it sounds like you had a pretty good mentor to kind of help guide you through it with your older brother who also hooped, and he was a big influence on getting you to Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why Vegas, though, rather than maybe an academy in Florida or somewhere else on the East Coast or California? There's a number of different places you can go for that last year.
Well, my brother was already there, and he was influencing me. And he made like some good points on why it might be good for me. And I saw like he had a trainer in there, Chad Briggs. I saw my brother's game go like skyrocket. So I was like, I want to be like that, especially like getting ready for college. I wanted my game to skyrocket like that.
So you'd already established yourself. You felt good in Virginia, but you wanted to get to the next level. So yeah, that was really what got you out there.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, now that you're back in Virginia, you're actually not super close to home. So you were right around Virginia Beach area, growing up, the Hampton Roads area, but now you're in Radford, Virginia. That's on the opposite side of the state for anyone who's not aware. So how have you settled into life at Radford? How have those first several months gone?
I actually love it here. In the summer, big adjustment. Small town, everybody knows each other. So it was kind of a big adjustment. But now everybody's on campus. We went through a crazy Christmas break where nobody was here. But, I really I like it here now. It's very calm. Everybody knows each other. Very friendly. Very friendly.
Yeah. Now, were you worried at all about adjusting to a new area, like trying to find new restaurants that are your favorites, new places to get your hair cut and the like? Or was it just kind of like once you got in, you were comfortable and it was cool?
Yeah, I'm military family, so I was kind of built for this.
You're built for it. Now it's great to know that your military background, because that does help you adjust from place to place to place. But how much did your coaches help in kind of getting you acclimated?
Yeah, my coaches helped a lot, especially like being a guard, and a shorter guard at that. You want that like reassurance to make sure like they want me here. Like they know what I can be. They see what I can do and see my potential. So that was the biggest part. And everything else, that's up to me and my family. I trusted the process, trust everything. Yeah, my coaches really helped me though.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I do want to highlight about your travels, you mentioned being a military kid, going from place to place. You obviously got to live in a number of different areas from a young age. Well, one of the hot topics right now where I live in the state of Florida is how we teach students about Black history. Yet topics like African-American studies, critical race theory, they're seen as controversial topics here. So I'm just curious for your education between Virginia, Nevada, and the other places you lived. How were you taught about figures like MLK, Black history in school? Was there like a big noticeable difference from place to place, or was it kind of uniform? Like what did it look like for you in school?
Yeah, it was like different, like in Virginia, I had a lot of, I was my freshman year, sophomore year. So I had a lot of history classes, and then in Virginia, I had a more like African-American teachers. So they really preached it, like that's a big one. I had a lot of African-American teachers, especially the area I was in. So I was getting taught that year round. In Nevada, not as many African-American teachers. I didn't have any. I didn't have no history class. So I didn't really learn it. Like I didn't really learn a lot of it. I didn't have a history class at that. So I can't, but like I'll say Virginia, it was like year round. In Nevada, it was more just Black History Month. They preached it.
I mean, did that have any kind of impact on you? Just kind of seeing like, all right, I've got a number of Black teachers. I've got, this is something that we talk about, kind of keep front of mind regularly when you're in Virginia. Was that something that you kind of noticed and was just like, oh, this is kind of cool? Or was it just kind of normal just because you were around it so much?
Yeah, just another adjustment I had to make.
Mhm.
Didn't even think of it too much. Just another adjustment.
Kind of didn't even realize it until you left, you were gone. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, of course, coming from a Black household, one of the biggest things that you learn growing up is that your exposure to Black history isn't just going to be from formal education, but you learn it at home, of course. So growing up, what were you taught about Black history, and how did it maybe differ from what you learned in school?
Well, it's like different. It wasn't like a lot of like, I won't say history, but like just knowing, like as African American, the odds are against us. So so when you go to class, you want to listen. Like, it was stuff like that. I wouldn't say like, oh, they taught me. My family, like, they just taught me to just know the odds are against me. So come in class. Don't be disruptive. Listen and ask questions. When you go out of public, don't act a fool. Stuff like that. They just taught me how to, don't let them put like a agenda on me. Or I'll say.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, coming from a military background as well, like kind of learning that discipline on top of everything else was kind of always baked into how you were taught by your parents, if I had to guess, right?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, just well, I wasn't really a curious child, so I never really, did anything like super crazy. But like I had brothers too, so I saw how they acted, and I was like, yeah, I gotta follow them.
So you learned from them. You let them do all the mistake making.
Yeah, I made mistakes. They told me to learn from the mistakes. So
that's fair. That's fair. Well, I mean, yeah, there isn't really a class that teaches you like these things in life, like how to be Black in America. Of course, it's about life experience, it's about family. So yeah, so it sounds like your family, your parents, your brothers, they all kind of help guide you to becoming the young man who you are today. Yeah.
Yeah, a huge part.
Yeah. Now, one thing that the Big South has done in their efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion is trying to supplement that family education and the formal education for student athletes with their own diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. So this past year, you went to Charlotte for the Big South Conference Freshman Academy. So one of the sessions was how to conduct yourself if and when you're pulled over on the highway. Now, of course, this is something where any Black person, you'll have had that conversation called the talk about being pulled over. You have that at home growing up. So I'm just curious, what did that session cover, and how is it maybe different than just the way you would talk about it at home?
Like what the difference is, like with your parents, they can tell you what to do and everything. But with the highway patrolmen, they're African American as well. And we got their perspective, the cops' perspective. So, we want to give the cop. So they just taught me like, don't give them any reason. That's like you get to see the cops' perspective, how to be smarter. And then like when we was doing the thing, everybody had questions. Everybody was engaged. And like I say, like that really helped. Like that really helped me out. That's one thing I took from the thing in Charlotte, the freshman academy in Charlotte, was that really taught me. So I've never been pulled over before, and I feel like that talk prepared me.
Yeah, just kind of adding on what you already kind of knew from growing up and talking in the household. But you mentioned tons of questions. What were some of the questions that popped up? I'm curious, like what everyone was asking about, what people wanted to know.
Like, how do the cops think?
Yeah.
And then some of us were like confused on like, man, why does the cop think like that? We want to wonder why, like why does stuff like this happen? They were just questions like that. We were just confused, like young freshman academy, 18, 19-year-olds. We were just confused on like, hey, why would he think like that? Stuff like that. Why would he think like that? Or should I put my hands on the thing, or should I have my hands showing? Like different stuff like that.
Sure. Now, I mean, of course, student athletes aren't exclusively Black. You've got plenty of white, Latino, Asian student athletes, people from all across the country and the world. So did you have any classmates or any other student athletes who just really hadn't been exposed to this, had never been a part of this conversation? Like, oh, I didn't know that we need to talk about this. Was there any of that in the room, or was everyone kind of clued in like, yeah, okay, this is something that people talk about regularly? Yeah, like, how did that go?
Everybody was included in. Everybody was asking questions. Everybody was asking questions.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
So that's why everybody was so engaged. I felt like And I was too. I didn't have any questions, but I was like super engaged. I was just really just trying to hear everything, because it's gonna happen to me one day. I'm gonna get pulled over one day. I want to know what to do. I want to make sure I give all the cops reassurance.
Yeah.
So it was a big thing.
Yeah, it is funny because like that's one of the things that I don't know if it's always told that like the officer doesn't necessarily like going into that situation all the time either, especially if you have like tinted windows or something like that. Like they're kind of going into it like I don't know what's about to happen, so it could be tense on both sides. Is that one of the things they kind of covered as well?
Yeah, I didn't get that part. I didn't think.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
never thought. I got the cop's perspective. I never remember like, wait, they don't even know who's in that car. I never thought of it that way. So that was a big part of it. Like they don't know what car they're going into, so I have to make sure they feel safe too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's a heavy topic, it's not always the most fun thing to talk about, but it's of course real life. And one of the other things that you guys covered at that conference that's very much real life was talking about mental health. It's so vital for freshmen to have a good mental health, making that adjustment in the first year. So what all was covered in that session?
mental health is really just, we're all freshmen in there, and then that freshman year, you're figuring it out. You're trying to figure out college, you're freshman. So they just getting us ready, like to say if you are going through something, keep a family member, don't be down to yourself. Don't be down on yourself because everybody else is going through it. So it's stuff like that, like stuff to like keep you calm in those situations. Don't result to anything bad. Just staying level-headed, even kill. Most of what it was like talking about the mental health.
And how did that resonate with everyone? Was everyone kind of like, okay, I feel comfortable going and talking to people if I need to, like I know where my resources are, or is it still kind of like one of those where it's quiet because you almost don't know how to respond? Like how was that received? Because I know you mentioned the highway one. You talk about a lot of questions came up. Were there a lot of questions in that mental health one too?
It was like 50-50. It was kind of quiet because it's hard, pretty like a very tough subject, mental health. Some people gonna hide the mental health part. Some people gonna hide the mental. So it's like pretty tough topic to ask questions about.
Sure.
So like,
yeah, and sometimes it's not room to just jump up and ask a question in front of everybody. You might want to ask up the side. So yeah, that's also a very fair point. So for you, did you take anything away from that mental health session that you've kind of applied during your first year at Radford?
Don't be scared to talk to a family member.
Yeah.
Don't be scared. If you're going through something, talk to a family member. If anything goes wrong, go to your day ones, go to your family. That's what I took from it. Don't second guess it. If you feel off, go talk to a family member. And don't be scared to report it. It's your family.
Yeah. And I mean, it's incredible talking to you because you don't come off as like a freshman in college. You sound like you're a well-seasoned, a little bit of an old head, but that's a sign of maturity. That's a sign of maturity. It's a good thing, promise you. Well, Kenyon, as we start to kind of wrap things up a little bit, I know we've talked a lot about non-basketball, but let's talk a little bit more basketball related. One of the things that people I know can relate to maybe you a little bit better than maybe a ton of other basketball players is going to be the height thing. I mean, I know we've kind of talked about it off camera. You're 5'11" listed. That's considered below average height for hoops. Yet here you are. You're one of the leading scorers in the conference. You're second on your team in scoring. So for you being listed and being a little bit below average height wise, how has that compelled you? I know you mentioned it earlier, but how has that kind of spurred you on to being the best version of yourself, to kind of stay hungry?
Like being at this height, my mindset is I got to work harder than everybody. I'm gonna work harder than everybody. I'm not gonna downplay it, half play it. I'm gonna go hard at it.
Yeah, and you're talented in basketball. And I know that you'll be talented in whatever you do after basketball. Kenyon, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I really appreciate your time and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's Radford freshman guard Kenyon Giles. Appreciate his time. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to Cultural Conversations with the Big South. And we'll see you next time.
Sorry.